Hey everyone, welcome back to the AWESMR Pop channel. Today we're going to use this giant sponge to wash some dishes. Just kidding, we'll be making a giant edible sponge cake. How awesome is that? Alright, to make this delicious treat, we'll need 2 sticks or 16 tablespoons of softened butter. Oh yeah, we're going to be using a lot of butter, but we're also making a giant sponge, so I think it's a reasonable amount, I think. We'll also need a cup of sugar. We're starting off pretty strong. Butter and then sugar. How can this go wrong? We saw this hovering all around YouTube and other social media sites, and we were like, hey, let's try to make our own. Alright, now let's add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. We'll also need 6 eggs, but don't add all the eggs in at once. Do it one at a time until they're all fully combined. So far, this recipe is really simple and all the ingredients are pretty easy to get. Soon enough, we'll be able to make a butter cake that looks like an actual dish sponge. Now, an actual dish sponge is probably disgusting. I say probably because I don't know. Some people are weird. But this edible dish sponge will be loved by everyone. Trust me. Texture-wise, this won't feel like an actual sponge. It's going to have a soft crust, and it should be really moist. I guess sponges when they're wet are moist, so it'll be somewhat similar. Alright, got the last egg mixed in. Now let's add our dry ingredients. We'll need 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and this is not dry, but we need 6 tablespoons of buttermilk. If you're not a crazy baker, you probably don't have buttermilk. Grab a cup of milk and a tablespoon of lemon juice, if you do have that. Let it sit for 5 minutes, and then grab 6 tablespoons of that. Just like with any baked goods, we need to mix a lot. Okay, now let's grab another bowl because we're going to be making 2 different layers. Let's pour about 1/3 of the batter into this bowl. Alright, let's start by making the yellow sponge mix. So add in some food coloring. Mix this up. Okay, here's our yellow cake mix. Now we're going to make the rough sponge part, so let's add green food coloring. I'm also adding brown food coloring to get a darker green color. You know we're trying to make this look as real as possible. If you don't have the brown food coloring, the green scrub portion might look a little off. Let's mix this up. I know we were told not to play with our food, but isn't this fun? Getting artsy, but also making something that'll be super delicious. Perfect! We got both of our cake mixes ready. Now we need 2 square baking pans. Make sure you have some parchment paper in the pans and spray some cooking oil as well. Let's pour some yellow cake mix in. Oh yeah, look at that! I love how vibrant the yellow cake mix is. It's the perfect sponge color. Okay, now let's add the green into the other pan. We don't have a lot of green, and if you're following along, you probably don't have enough either. So use a spatula to evenly spread it out. There we go. Who's ready to bake? Let's preheat the oven to 320 degrees, or you can do 325. Since the green cake is thinner, it's going to cook faster, so take it out after 10 to 12 minutes. And then we can take the yellow cake out after an additional 5 minutes. Pretty simple, right? Woo! So here's a closer look at our yellow sponge cake. I know I made it, but it looks amazing. And don't worry about the burnt edges. We'll cut those parts out. Right now I'm spreading a light colored jam onto this cake. This jam will act as a glue. Science! Now let's attach our green cake layer on top. Okay, now let's use a serrated knife to make that rough sponge detail. And we're just going to slightly trim off the top, and we should get that rough texture. I mean, I've only done a little bit so far, but it looks pretty good. Alright, now let's make our sponge shape. Cut off all the sides. Don't worry, these side pieces are not going to waste. They are entering my belly. Almost finished. And look at that! We made a giant edible dish sponge cake. Looks pretty real, right? We wanted to put this in our actual sponge container in our sink, but it was too big and we thought it would break, so we used this rack instead. But what do you think? Now it's time to make the quote-unquote dish soap. We'll need to crack 2 eggs, but we only need the egg whites. Check out this masterful skill. Do it one more time. And 4 tablespoons of everyone's favorite powder, sugar. Now let's mix this lightly. And we're not going to fully whip it. It needs to be under whipped to get that soapy look. So once it looks like this, we can stop. Now let's add some dish soap on top of our sponge. Still can't believe how real this looks. Am I about to do dishes or eat? Actually both, because I have to clean up all the mess I made making this dessert. Alright, we have our soap on our giant sponge. Let's take a closer look at it. So visually, this is a 10 out of 10. And I know I say this a lot, but seriously, this is one of the best edible objects I've made. And it's really easy. I'm also really happy we went with the giant route. Okay, now let's try it. Oh yeah, super soft, super moist, super good, and every other positive word that goes with super. That's how good this cake is. Anyway, you should try making this at home. Make a smaller one to make it more realistic, and freak your parents out by eating it. They'll probably think you're crazy. And then feed them one and they'll say it's crazy good. Well, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to click that subscribe button for more awesome videos. See ya!